Now let's continue to debug our code. By observing the call stack, we know the method reverse words calls the method reverse word, and the reverse word method calls the swap method. Or we can say the reverse words method depends on the reverse word method, and the reverse word method depends on the swap method, and the swap method depends on nothing. That means if there's something wrong in the swap method and the reverse word method cannot be correct, and if there's something wrong in the reverse word method, because the reverse words method will call the reverse word method, so it's impossible the reverse word method is correct. So why there is this kind of dependency? Because when we designed this application, we used a methodology called top-down design. So the top-down design means when we resolve a big problem, we try to break the big problem down to some smaller problems. And if these small problems are still not small enough, and then we keep breaking down the small problems to smaller problems until these tiny problems can be resolved directly. That means when we try to reverse all the words in a sentence, we just use a iteration to reverse the single word one by one. And when we try to reverse a single word, we just swap the position of the characters in the word. Now let's debug these three methods one by one. And we know we should start from the method swap because all other two methods directly or indirectly depends on this method. Okay, how to debug this method? And the first thing is we set a breakpoint here, and we make some call to this method. Now I comment out the old code and I prepare some input here. Then we pass this char array to the swap method with the lower index and higher index. So we do that manually. Call that swap chars. Give the lower index with 0 and the higher index give the chars dot length -1. That means I want to swap the character at the first position and the last position. I want to swap the character A and E. And after that, I do the same thing, swap chars and 1 and the chars dot length -2. That means I want to swap the character B and D. And the character C, I don't need to swap it, but if I want to debug the method, chars with a 2, 2. Since it's a corner case. Now let's click the debug and start debugging. And there's a recommendation for you that we should be familiar with the shortcut keys of the debugging tool, because when we debug the code, we want to focus on the code and we don't want our mouse cursor or our focus leave the code. So you see the start debugging shortcut key is F5 and step into is F11 and step over is F10. If you want to know the meaning of the step into and step over, you can reference the content of the course. Okay, if you see your shortcut keys is not as same as mine, maybe you want to set your keyboard layout and go to the tools and options, and go to the environment and the keyboard. And here you should use Visual C# 2005 and click OK. Then you will see your debugging shortcut keys will be the same as mine. Okay, now let's continue to debug. We click the Start Debugging. Okay, now the breakpoint is hit. Here we can hover the mouse on the parameters. You can see char is ABCDE, and the lower index is 0, the higher index is 4. 4 means the fifth element of the array. The fifth, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is E. We want to swap A and E. Now, to be a professional developer, you should observe the value in another window called Locals. And see, in the Locals window, you will see all the local variables. Local variables means the variables belongs to this call stack. And if you click the level of the main, you will see different local variables. So let's switch back to the current swap method call. Now we see the values here. The char's expand is A, B, C, D, E. But as we see, if we expand the array or list, the content in the list will be too long. And there we introduce another very convenient tool called immediate window. In the immediate window, we can write some C# code and interact with the values on this call stack frame. That means we can interact with chars, char array, and the lower index, higher index. We also can change the values here. Like we can change the value from here. Let's see chars. Hit enter, we'll see chars ABCDE. And if I type new string chars, hit enter, I'll see a string ABCDE. This is more clear for me to read the values. Next, I'll press F10. F10 means step over. And here, if I press F11, they are equivalent. That's because we are not calling other method. If here we are calling other method, we press F11, then we will drill down to that method, and we will see how to use F11 in next section. Now I press F10. We can see that something get red. That means this value is changed. The temp get the value A, and I keep press F10. Now expand here. We can see the first character of the char array is changed to E, and if I keep press F10, okay, the last character of the chars array is changed to A. And if I press F10 again, we'll go back to the main method. Now I press F10 again. We're ready to debug next call of the swap method. Here, if I press F11, then I will drill down to the swap method. But actually, I don't need to press F11 because don't forget we already set a breakpoint in the swap method. And here, even we press F10, we are still blocked by the breakpoint. And now let's do the next round debug for the swap method. I press F10 and temp get B. F10 and the fourth character get B. Okay, I press F10, go back to main method. Okay, I press F10 again, F10. I blocked by the breakpoint and F10. And now we see both the lower index and the higher index are 2. So that means there won't any swap happen. So C won't change. Now we see the whole char array is reversed. A, B, C, D, E. E, D, C, B, A. Okay, now we just proved the method swap doesn't have any problem. Also, we can trust this method. When we trust the method, next time when we call this method, we can use the step over, and we don't step into that method because we know that method doesn't have any problem. We trust that method. Okay, next step, we will debug the reverse word method, which depends on the swap method.